So, Chris, I just want to give a quick overview, a little bit about yourself, just for those that haven't heard of you, and then we're going to get right into it, inshallah. So,
Hey, so I can.
yeah, go for it.
Oh,
Bismillah.
you're going to do the. Oh,
No, no,
you want me to do the overview?
no. I would love for you to do it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So anyway, a quick recap. I became Muslim when I was 16 in Massachusetts, in America. Went to Michigan to study engineering. I found that a bit dull after I actually started working as an intern at Intel, which is a chip manufacturer. And I decided from that point on, I was going to go down a different path. So I ended up getting a master's in educational leadership. I taught for a while, helped start an Arabic program. Then went into film, which is kind of crazy. And then I went into tech startups, including LaunchGood, which is another crazy step. So I've had this, kind of zigzaggy path all my life, but I love it.
I mean, this is one of the things because, while I was kind of getting ready for this, I was trying to find out more about you, even though we've spoken loads of times before. And it was really interesting. Like you mentioned, like on one hand, like, you're an American who's born in Malaysia, right? And then you did engineering, but then you're like this really amazing entrepreneur. And then at the same time, you're doing all this kind of movie stuff and winning,
Right.
you won the Magic Johnson Social Entrepreneur Prize as well, right?
Yeah.
So all these amazing things. And then mashallah, you're married, you got a family, like there's so much different stuff going on, right? So the first question I want to ask you is, what was 10-year-old Chris like?
Oh, that's a good question. 10-year-old Chris, you're talking about fifth grade. Not so impressive. Yeah, I was a bit of a nerd. I had a very small circle of friends. Mostly, I like to, play outside, play sports, but I wasn't actually good at sports, although I did enjoy it. And, things like Legos and, very math and science oriented, very logical. The entrepreneur side of me was always there, I would say. So, things like lemonade in America, we do these lemonade stands, toy stands, garage sales. I used to be an artist, so I'd like draw monsters and I'd sell those to my friends for like $1 or something like that. So, those are some things that you look back and you're like, oh, maybe not everyone thought that way. I did. But I think, maybe what kind of stood out about 10-year-old Chris is I was thinking a lot about things. So that was probably about I started thinking about religion and faith.
Really?
Yeah, I would say by the time I was 12, I had made the decision that I wasn't going to, believe in God anymore. And that's a pretty young age to make a big decision like that. At the time, I didn't feel like it, but, in hindsight, it's like, oh, wow, not a lot of kids in middle school are thinking about that.
What was it that triggered your thoughts about this kind of stuff?
I like to know how things work. It's like I like to know, and maybe that's why I love Legos. Like you can take it apart, build it again, really kind of explore things. And so, from the bigger picture, it's like, well, how does the universe work?
Wow. Okay.
Like, how does life work? So I'd think about that, and I'd say, well, I'm not just going to accept the Bible because it's my parents' book. I'm not just going to accept Christianity because that's what I was born into. I want to understand how this works. And you start looking into it, and you're like, whoa, this guy has a bunch of issues with it. I remember also in fifth grade, I studied Hinduism for a school project, and I was like, wow, it's kind of cool as a fifth grader because, or a 10-year-old, because you have all these cool stories, but it's all stories. You can see it's not true, right? And so those were to me, that was religion. It was just like Christianity and Hinduism.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, neither of those things are true, so it's probably all just made up,
Amazing. Fantastic. So this is good. I'm getting to know you. This is one of the great things about doing these interviews, getting to know people a bit deeper, mashallah. So tell us a little bit about LaunchGood, because I'd love to hear about it in your own words. Like someone who's never heard of it, tell us what it's about. What was the reason that you started it?
I'm going to give you the long version. I don't give this to a lot of people.
Good, that's what I want.
I think that's the format we have here.
Yeah.
Really, you have to look back to why I even became Muslim. So say there's kind of two parts to that. One part is the logical part, right? And seeing starting studying the Quran, the history of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him,
Yeah.
the history of it's like all that points to this really is a true religion, or the true religion. The second part of it was the influence of Malcolm X. Have you read his autobiography before?
No, I haven't.
Oh man,
But
you got to.
I know I've seen the movie. I know that's really bad, but
You've seen the
I
movie.
haven't.
That's why you should. That's good. That's good. You know, that's like,
I know
okay,
his
if you see the
story,
movie, it's pretty good. But the book is really amazing. We had to read it for a class I took in school in 11th grade.
Wow, okay.
And I was so profoundly affected by Malcolm X. I mean, really, even to this day, like I think thousands of people become Muslim every year because of his story.
Really?
And for me, one of the things that really stood out was this idea of legacy, like building a legacy of impact in the world. And I just, so when I became Muslim, I was like, I want to be like Malcolm. And I used to have these dreams like, oh, what if we like bought a giant apartment and we converted it. So like first floor would be masjid, second floor would be gym, third floor would be school. I had all these ideas. And very quickly, those ideas were squashed by the Muslim community. Implicitly and explicitly. So implicitly, you could just see like how Muslims are always kind of fighting and arguing, and it's like, how could you ever do a big project like that if the community is not united? And even explicitly, when I had, ideas like, oh, could I work as like a director of masjid? Like, I'm not going to be an imam. I'm not that guy, right? Yeah. But I love serving the Muslim community. I loved working for the MSA. I think you call them ISOC, so MSA
right, yep.
Association. I loved serving the Muslims on campus. But then it was just like, everyone's like, well, that's not a career. You can't actually make a career out of that. You got an engineering degree at a top university. Like, you should go work and do corporate life. And it wasn't until I actually started working for life, actually, I can do whatever I want in my life. It may not be easy. It certainly wasn't easy for Malcolm. There was a lot of sacrifices, but I can do whatever I want. And just because what I envision doesn't exist out there doesn't mean it can't be built. And so that was, for me, an important point with LaunchGood is like, hey, I think we could actually build a company, a platform that unites Muslims and inspires them to do really good work. And that was my inspiration for LaunchGood. I had seen Kickstarter. In my film days, we ended up being the first Muslims to use Kickstarter, which is this creative entrepreneurial crowdfunding platform that has really ignited imaginations in America and now across the world. And I thought, if we could do that globally with Muslims, just ignite imaginations, empower them, make them feel like there's always something they can do, how cool would that be? And so that was the inspiration for LaunchGood. Now, getting there is another story, but that was at least how we had the inspiration for it.
Amazing. Wonderful.